Good evening, everyone. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order, and please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of officer, or roll call.
Stephanie Smith, board member.
Amy Bailey, board member.
Brian
Bernadette
Costelli,
Bauer.
board member.
Bernadette Bauer, board member.
Jody Thompson, board member.
Chris Nesmith, superintendent.
Eric Smith, staff.
Lisa Arnold, staff.
Candace Goldsmith, staff.
Okay, approval of board meeting minutes from October 13th, 2021.
I'll move to approve the board meeting minutes for October 13th, 2021.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded. Are there any questions? Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Letters. We have an awful lot of letters this evening. Do we want to read all those letters, or do we want to go ahead and continue through for the letters of hire?
Continue through is fine.
Okay. Okay, so then we'll move along to the consent agenda.
I'll move for the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. With Ryan abstaining, there's no other further discussion.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mute button off. I'm
Okay.
going to abstain from this also.
Okay, so we've got.
So I guess I
Ryan-
probably couldn't have made the motion.
Would you like to rescind your motion?
I will rescind my motion to approve the consent agenda. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, discussion items. We have the Elma Strategic Planning and the presenter will be Mr. Nesmith.
Oh, how's it going? All right, let me go ahead and pull this up. Share my screen. And I was, where you guys go? There it is. When I was brought on by the Elma board in our Elma community, one of the things I was asked to do is begin the process of building an Elma strategic plan. So are you guys all looking at my presentation screen? Perfect. All right, so we're going to kind of talk about the process that we're going to be going through within the Elma strategic planning process. Kind of one of this is we're moving through a process called improvement science, tied to it's called the improvement framework, and it's really been a big trend on how to break things down into simplistic goals, how to have database goals. We have 5 key focus areas within the Elma School District that we're prioritizing on within that work, and then also the timeline and how we plan to move forward in the structure and the design. So some of the background, Elma's lucky, we're one of 60 school districts across the entire United States who was invited to apply and join the National Superintendents Association and a partnership with the International Center on Leadership for Education's initiative called Learning 2025. This is only an exclusive group of 60 school districts. There's only 3 school districts in Washington state that were invited to be a part of it. And really the ultimate goal is by the year 2025 to have a report delivered to the U.S. Department of Education on what the education system needs to look at following COVID-19. And I mean, for me, that's a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. Prior to coming to the Elma School District, that was really what I spent a lot of my work on. I was lucky to be on the Career Connect Washington initiative, redesigning what it means to graduate in Washington State, designing the new graduation requirements for Washington State, and then also working on the Washington Student Achievement Council, where we redesigned the admissions process for all universities. And to really have that, background on what it means for lifelong success, and then be invited to a partnership with the top school districts in the United States. It's just a really big, it's a big deal for the Elma community. It's a big deal for the Elma School District to say that we're not really holding ourselves up against the old metrics of how school districts really measure success, but we're a part of the group who's going to be part of the National Superintendents Association, the top leaders in the country on what the education system really does need to do to benefit our students. So really what we get is we receive senior consulting services. We actually do. We have a senior consultant. Actually, it's the former commissioner of the entire state of education for New York State, who led the restructure of the state of New York. And she actually works directly with the Elma School District. Help us create a tailored action plan to talk about where are we, where do we want to be, and how do we build it? How do we get to where we want to be? All of our administrators get access to professional learning. So that way we're not just really sitting in the Elma community, but our administrators all have access to the top leadership programs across the entire United States. This includes pre-K support work. We're going to talk about it later, but our assistant principal, Mr. Scroggins, has already joined and is an active participant within the National Pre-K initiative and working with the National Office of Head Start on how do we solve this crisis with early learning. So when students are in kindergarten. We're also a member of the cohort called Redefining Ready, which is a national research team on what does it mean to prepare students for life and success beyond high school because generic state test scores really aren't an indicator. They don't really say anything about how you perform after high school, right? But there actually are valuable data indicators that actually do show how you perform after high school. And are we leveraging ourselves against the indicators that show lifelong success? So our principals and our administrators have access to these research groups. We're actually going to build custom data dashboards. We've been doing that. Last week, we got a glimpse of our data dashboards, right? Where we talked about what are Elma students doing. I think one of the data indicators were, I think 14% of Elma graduates pursue a post-secondary education. But of our students who don't complete that earn about, on average, 35 grand a year while they're in their 30s. And it's are we getting the data to measure what we think is important for our students? And I think life out of poverty for me, and are we setting our students up for life out of poverty? That would be that number one data indicator I want to see is, do we have the indicators to set our students up for lifelong success and building those custom dashboards? I think the OSPI data dashboard's great, but raising test scores while only 14% of our students are able to find their way out of poverty, the state's not really showing us the data that really measures, did we benefit our kids in the rest of their lives? We get a chance to contribute to national research practice and policy. And again, that was one of the things I was excited about coming to Elma, because that's one of the things I got to do, and to bring that conversation to the Elma School District, right? So kind of working in setting state policy, and now Elma's going to be at the forefront on, it's not really, our goal isn't to be the best at following the old rules. The goal of the Elma School District is to be the one who sets the new rules. Like, how do we set the new definition of success? I think it's okay, and a lot of districts aspire to be successful on somebody else's terms. And our goal for the Elma School District is to be successful on our own terms. And how do we say, look, hey, the old definition isn't really benefiting our kids. We're going to be a part of a national collaborative, and we're going to take this to the National Superintendents Association. We're going to take this to the United States Department of Education to say, this is the new definition of student success, because those old definitions really aren't cutting it. Our ability to network, we get a chance to network with other school districts, tour other school districts. Other school districts will be coming in the next 3 years to the Elma School District to see how we've changed and moved. And we're also going to be connected to research-based recommendations. Empirical research is best. Again, there's no data to support state test scores support you in state lifelong success. There's no data to support that SAT scores and ACT scores to support students in post-secondary success. It's why the state eliminated those as data indicators. Right? So, I mean, are we using the data that actually shows how we're impacting our students on lifelong goals? And do we have the research to back that data? It's burying ourselves in research, learning leaders who are integrated in what contemporary information, how to benefit our kids. And that's really what we get to be a part of. So we're going to talk about what are we doing and how are we doing it. This summer, and a lot of our board, we all had the same focused reading on learning to improve. And it's the adoption of improvement science. It's how do we move the Elma School District forward? So step one is really we have to identify common goals. Do we all have common definitions of success? Right? Our common definition, the goal that we've landed on is we want Elma graduates to be set up for lifelong success, and we're using the data indicators that drive lifelong success. And do we have that kind of data? And that data is not available with the state, so we have to recreate it ourselves. Step two is this work doesn't happen. I think one of the big issues, and that's one of the things our book talks about, and one of the things that you see in public schools is school districts come across new initiatives and they try to plunk it down, and they say, well, this worked in the Olympia School District, so now it's going to work in the Elma School District. And I've got news, Elma is not Olympia. You can't just adopt something and put it in our school district and expect it to work. Elma is Elma. So our second step, and this is really where we are, is as we've defined our goals, is how do we have the teacher teams to say, this is great that somebody else has done, but this is who we are. These are what our goals are. And this is how we're going to get there. Step three is, do we have accountability measures? We've already been using our late start Mondays for our teacher teams to say, I really want to be a part of this work. And this is the data I need to measure that work. And again, that was the data we got to look at last week, or our last board meeting. We're going to be super strong users of data. And we're going to understand what is an impact? Like, is this causal? Is it relational? Right? If I mess with this indicator, is it going to drive this indicator? Or do these data indicators, do they just correlate? Do they just move together? And really making sure that our administrative team and our teacher leaders understand how to use data. Again, step 4 is pretty simplistic. We're going to begin collecting the data. Do we actually have the data to measure our goals? Step 5 is, are we using and are we grounded in research? Does this drive student performance? So as we look at our data and we look at gaps and we have our starting point, our goal is by next spring to be grounded in research on where we want to take the Elma School District. And then step 6 is, after that's done next spring, it's our goal by August that that's actually when we'd be compiling and finishing our strategic plan. Our biggest gap now and to where we want to be is we're still finalizing our clear goals, and we don't have the clear data benchmarks to say this is where we are and this is where we want to be, right? And that's what we need to have to get a final strategic plan ready for our community and for the board. And our goal is to have that ready to go by the beginning of next school year. So let's talk about our focus areas. Our district administrators and our teacher leadership teams landed on 5 key focus areas. Pre-K, pre-kindergarten. 70% of our students come to the Elma School District without access to kind of high-level pre-K education experiences. Half of those, many of the times when our students are showing up, it's the first time they've seen a book. And we have students coming to us that are already academically behind, and we're trying to close that gap. And one of the best ways to close academic achievement gaps is for our students to never show up behind in the first place. We're so lucky to have Stephanie Smith on our board as a board member who actually works in the pre-K space. So even on our board, we have standing experience. Next up is mastery-based learning. Mastery-based learning means students are graded and assessed based off of what they know, right? One of the data indicators we looked at last week is, yeah, test scores can move, right? But what happened is our test scores move at the exact same rate that we've increased our staffing, to a point that we're no longer financially stable to maintain our current staffing rates. So if we decrease staffing, our assessment score is going to fall with it. And I think it's logical to say, obviously, if you hire more people, your test scores go up, which is why we looked at that at our last meeting. I think the next conversation is going to be is, do we actually have the data to see what our students are learning and how they're learning it? And that's where mastery-based learning. Universally designed learning is, are we meeting the individual needs of our students? Are we meeting their different barriers? Do we have specific learning gaps that we need to target? And are we building training for our teachers to cover that within the least restrictive environment back in their main classroom? This one's really special to me, which is the career and college readiness. Again, grad rates, great. We want to have a lot of grad rates. Great. You want to have high test scores. Great. But if our students aren't getting an education in Elma that benefits them for the rest of their lives, and we don't have data to show that we're benefiting them for the rest of their lives, then what are we doing, right? Like, what are we doing? Again, 14% of our graduates in the class of 2019, and that was down. We were 19% of our graduates in the class of 2018. So we're on that constant slide on where our students are going for education when they leave Elma High School. And we want to make sure that we're tracking ourselves and actually using the right data to show that our students are being set up for lifelong success. And then the last one, it's a huge one. It's the social emotional learning. So one of the processes, we've identified program leads of our administrative team. Our administrators know they're tasked with becoming the experts of these arenas, right? Elma administrators will be the best at pre-K. Elma administrators will be the best at mastery learning. Elma administrators will be the best at career and college readiness. We will be the best at social emotional learning. And that's really how we've broken apart our leadership, where instead of just managing the operations, we're key level leaders and experts with a vision on where we're going to go. So pre-K is going to be led by our assistant principal, Greg Scroggins. He's actually tied into the National Superintendent's Early Learning Cohort, and he's using his WAKIDS assessment data to show student growth. And Greg is just taking it and ran. Mark Keating, Sunshine Perry, and Julie Crawford are leading our mastery-based learning initiative. Right, they've actually got an application ready to go on Monday next week to join the Washington State Board of Education to be one of the leading districts to define what mastery-based learning is. Kind of an interesting fact is mastery-based learning is now a law in Washington State. It's WAC 180-51051. And all schools are now supposed to be doing it. So Washington State is looking for administrators to lead this work, and our administrators in Elma have risen their hands and said, we're prepared to be the leaders in the state to define what this will look like. And again, this goes back to my point. It's so much better to be the one to kind of design the rules, to design the metric, to be comparing ourselves on how we did against somebody else's design. University Design Learning is being led by Katie Gallagher and Stacy Rocky. I've actually joined the ESD 113 UDL team. There's a whole regional team doing this work. We're pulling Skyward data on the specific services students are needing. So then that way we can actually work with our own local classroom teachers on how to meet the needs of all of our students in the classroom. Career and College Readiness is being led by Christy Kershaw. This is going to be supported right now in the short term. We introduced our substitute principal at our last board meeting last week, Bill Opliger, and I was happy that everybody who was at our board meeting had the opportunity to meet Bill at our last board meeting. We're lucky to have him. The fact that Bill was the National College Board Building Principal of the Year or State Principal, State School of the Year for 3 years in a row, leading on dual credit initiatives. That's important. The number one reason we're losing students is running start. And if we have the ability to drive dual credit options for students in the Elma School District and have an award-winning substitute who's done that work and has been recognized on a national scale for leading that work, I think we actually have some people in-house right now, even temporarily, who can help lead that time. So Christy Kershaw is going to be leading that work. She's at National FFA right now. I feel like she's already a national leader in that space. And we're going to be looking at dual credit rates and post-secondary admission rate. Like how many of our students are moving on? Right now, post-secondary rates are up, but that's because of an increase in running start rates. So yes, Elma has an increase of post-secondary because its students have been leaving the Elma School District. How do we raise post-secondary rates and retain those students in the Elma School District? I think our highest rate is career and tech ed, and that work has really been led by Christy Kershaw. She's just done an incredible job. Social emotional learning is going to be led by Wendy Belden, and we're working now with Neural Education, the Brain-Based Classroom. We're led to author Karan Omani, wrote the book, The Brain-Based Classroom, has actually just lives right in Seattle, and he's actually agreed to work specifically with the Elma School District and lead our initiative. So our teachers have had access to book studies on neural education, on how the human brain functions and how students learn, coming down to work specifically with teachers in the Elma School District. And this just goes back to the point, we will be the national leaders in neural-based education. We'll also be using CASEL-based data indicators, right? So we're looking at CASEL indicators, which is a collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning. It's indicators that show these are the social emotional needs of our students, and this is how we drive it. But again, using brain-based science on how we can meet the needs of our students. Sorry. Are there any questions from the board so far on our initiatives and where we're going?
Oh my gosh. It's so much. It's all wonderful, very exciting things, the networking, the collaboration that you have laid out, and the things that you and the rest of the Elma District admin has have really come to the, I guess, stepped up to the plate. I don't know if I have questions right now because that's a lot of information, but wow, great work going on, guys. Great work.
I think the big shift is supporting our administrators to being the leaders. Sorry, Bernadette, you were saying something.
That was Stephanie.
Chris, I was just wondering, first of all, I have to tell you, I've heard you say this almost a number of times, but each time I'm like getting a better grasp, like, okay, yeah, that's where all those pieces are fitting. And so this really helped seeing it, laid out. Can you just on that last slide, will you remind me again on the CASEL, is that an assessment or like a set of skills?
There's a set of skills. There's a variety of assessments, and Wendy's team has been shopping for. So actually, the beauty, we moved over to the 5-lab dashboard that we showed off last board meeting.
Right.
Again, that was a big deal. Like I said, I know Elma is now the data leader in Grays Harbor County, and the reason why we moved to 5-lab as a dashboard is any dashboard data they build for any school district, they make available for any other school district. So Wendy has already reached out to 5-lab, and we already have a site study set up to begin working through our data, to begin identifying and looking at what are some of the other districts across the nation. Kind of sets us up as a professional learning community across the nation on what are the best data practices across the United States, and what assessments and indicators are they using, and what have they seen that is driven. It's all about having a network. It's about having leaders in charge of specific projects, making sure that we're able to make informed decisions, and we're connected to networks to make the best informed decisions. Again, we have to have our own data. No school district can function just using the state report card, right? If you want to be a leader in this work, you have to make sure that you have data that measures where you want to be. And that's how we're making it. So Elma leaders are, again, we're making the rules. We're setting the mold.
Thank you.
All right, our timeline. So we've been doing this work already. We've broken up. We're using those late start Mondays. Teachers can volunteer to be a part of the teams. And teachers can say, I want to be on one of these 5 teams. The administrator is just guiding the work, but the ideas are coming from our instructional leaders. Because again, once we know what we want to do, like we know we want pre-K, but I'll level with you. We can't just go buy somebody else's pre-K work. It has to be Elma's pre-K work. We can't go buy somebody else's career and college readiness work. And like so that's the area that post-secondary preparedness is the area that I was a consultant on for Washington State, redesigning the state education system. And the one piece of advice I always said as a consultant is you can't copy another district. You have to look at what your own community is doing. What are the opportunities in your community? I think Pew did a research on it and like found migratory patterns in the Pacific Northwest is within 45 miles. Most students, most people live within 45 miles of where they grew up. So preparing students for futures that are nowhere near us, that don't even exist in our community, really doesn't benefit our students because most are still going to be back here. So we need to look at what can Elma do. And this is an amazing place for economic investment. I mean, we have cheap energy, we have cheap internet, and the only third thing you need to grow economically is skilled labor. And I think we have the potential to do that. March and April, research-based practices. That's when our administrators are going to look at our teams, our educational, our teacher leadership teams will be looking at the data that we have, the benchmarks we have, and they're going to say, these are the gaps. And what does the research say so we can get better? What does my professional network say? What do people out of the area say so I get the best information out of Elma, but I have teacher leadership teams to say that are in Elma to read through discerningly to say, that's not going to work for our community, but this will. And then August, we're going to begin with Summer Institute. We're completely and totally revamping the Summer Institute for the Elma School District. And it's teachers are going to have the ability to sign up for courses to say, this is the area in which I want to work. This is the area in which I think I can be a part of improving the Elma School District. I want to learn more about this and I can adopt these things. So we have autonomy, we have agency. I think our last Summer Institute, I just ran it. It was everybody together. It's not my practice of Summer Institutes. Teachers have the ability and the agency to say, this is what's going to help my professional practice. This is where I'm going to go because this is where I can be a part of the puzzle. So I think we have a lot of opportunities. Again, we had a great data conversation last year, our last meeting. We got to look at all the kind of the pieces where we want to go, and we got to look at the data and say, you know, this data is not measuring what I want to see, and this is some of the other information I want to see. A big change that's going to happen. I do a weekly board report, and I haven't done one for 2 weeks. That's because my last board report were, who am I meeting with in the community? Those 5 key goals and on my evaluation is what's going to be on my board report. And it's what am I doing each week to move? What are we doing each week to move the Elma School District forward in these strategic goals? And that's how that will begin to look. So my goal is once we land on it and we're kind of in agreement that this is where we want the direction of the Elma School District to go, that I'm going to be issuing you a completely and totally revamped superintendent's report each week. Questions? I can probably take that down. Any questions?
And I don't know if I have questions right now, but this is very promising. It's very exciting. Thank you so much for putting such a wonderful presentation together. It makes it clear. Does anyone else have any questions for Chris?
I don't have any questions. I'm just going to kind of ditto what Bernadette and Stephanie have said. It's exciting. I know that Chris, you and I have had conversation, and I told you it was kind of a scary direction we were going, but it's a good direction. And I'm excited for the kids in our district. Sometimes I kind of wish that my kids were little again to get to experience all of this. Not that they've had bad experiences, but we're going to do big things in Elma, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And thanks to the admin for kind of stepping out of their comfort zone, some of them, and taking on these roles. How cool is that to be nationally recognized? So good job.
I got to make sure I add on this though. Some of it isn't even that big of a step out. Mark Keating has just been doing in Elma Elementary, the work they've done on standards-based grading. Honestly, without the standards-based grading work that's helping at Elma Elementary, mastery-based learning couldn't happen. The work that Julie Crawford has done at East Grays Harbor High School on standards-based grading and how we've supported through East Grays Harbor Open Doors and our ALE program, this wouldn't work unless her foundational work is done. Our teachers have done so much work on this area. Our own Elma Early Learning Program, right here on the Elma Elementary campus, like right outside my office. Without their work, this work could not be done. So there's so much infrastructure. I think the ultimate goal is how do we bring it all together as one Elma school district? So I think it wouldn't be fair if I didn't take a moment to say just how incredible the work of that's already been happening in Elma and how we have such a strong, we're ready, right? I think it was just telling Greg Scroggins, you're already a leader. You've already been doing an incredible job. Greg, I just want you to run with this pre-K work now. Like, I just want to unhandcuff you, unrestrict you. You're the leader of this work and I want to let you go lead. And God, he led. He's done an incredible job.
Great. Great job, everybody. Great job.
So, any other questions?
Excuse
All right.
me.
Well, I think the next one is we have my evaluation.
Yes, sorry. I think I got lost in my,
I could share my screen.
oh, nope, I got it. I got it back. I was pushed the wrong button and it took me all the way down to the very bottom of the agenda. Yeah, so superintendent evaluation is Mr. Nesmith.
We're kind of asked to go through the, let me scroll down, the WASDA superintendent evaluation process. And one of the things that we worked on is what are the indicators that we're specifically working on this year? And I think it looks light, but it's really not. These are big projects. Is the mission, vision, and core values. And you see that in our strategic plan. And it was indicator, standard 1 indicator E, explicit strategies. And it was the development of our Elma strategic plan and how it aligns to our district mission and vision. And then it was hold staff mutually accountable. And that was really, do we have data to measure ourselves, to keep ourselves accountable? So it was building our data dashboards. Standard 3, effective management. The superintendent is an educational leader who improves the learning achievement for each student and employee by ensuring management of the organization, operations, and resources for a safe, effective, and humane learning environment. So it's to promote the values, beliefs, behaviors to create an organizational culture. So the big one is that we want to build a new employee onboarding system. One of the things that we've learned is we hire you, give you your keys to your classroom, and we set you loose. So we've actually tasked administrators, and one of our goals for Summer Institute is, do we have a new teacher? Do we have a new employee onboarding process? So as we're redesigning this Elma way of doing things, anyone who comes to the Elma School District has an onboarding system on how to be trained in the new Elma way. Kind of an emergency project we're working on. We have to rebuild the employee evaluation system to make sure that it's aligned to our district evaluation tools. So are we restructuring how we evaluate our employees, and are we following the evaluation process? And this has been a big project that unplanned, but necessary to take on. Develop strategies to involve families and community members. So working on with Isabella Cristelli on how she has redesigned our district communication process. We have new newsletters, we have more information going out. We're trying to make sure that we're flowing, but like breaking apart on how public comments come to our community. And then the last one is engage the board and community in planning. Our next board meeting, we're going to be unveiling our plans for a long-range facilities plan. Like what, and this would include a site study and a functional use analysis of all of the Elma School District facilities. One of the big things I was tasked with is we need to have a plan on what we're going to do with our facilities. So these are large projects, but we will be beginning, and we'll notice that every single discussion item at our board meetings now will actually include some component of either the district strategic plan and how that is moving forward, or these parts of this, the superintendent evaluation. Next board meeting included. So the next board meeting, we're going to be talking about the long-range facilities plan. The second board meeting in November is going to be including the work we're doing on our Elma School District communications plan. Questions, concerns, comments?
No, that is very specific and those are great. I'm gonna tell you, I really like the onboarding. The whole new process that you guys are all coming up with, I think is desperately needed. And so just great job, everyone, for recognizing that we need that.
I appreciate
Bernadette, I'm wondering, Chris, on the first page that you showed us of the evaluation tool,
Mhm.
you have the an area for the dates to be set for kind of like the check-ins, I guess, the formal
Mhm.
and informal check-ins. Do we need to set those dates? Is that something that can be done in a agenda prep meeting?
That can be done through Bernadette and Jamie at an agenda prep meeting, or
Okay.
something that we do and finalize at a next meeting. I just wanted to make sure that these goals were approved. I can come back with the date that we'll go back through the evaluation and the process so we can complete the final evaluation.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's no problem. Jamie and I can meet with our monthly prep and set dates. Yeah, we have that coming up. Go ahead, Chris.
That means we'd approve at the second board meeting in November.
Yes.
I just think that's as much for our own accountability as it
Mhm.
is for Chris's, just because the days slip away and all of a sudden we want to be honorable about the timeline of that evaluation. I like the evaluation tool that we're looking at using in the sense that it really gives time to have meaningful conversations across the course of the year, not with all of a sudden one big ending conversation that wasn't meaningful for guiding the year. So
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
All right, we can do that. We can have those already. I agree, Stephanie. We definitely want to have those. And generally, in a regular year, we approve these probably in July, August. We have it set. And then I have a mid-year evaluation in January and an end-of-year evaluation in June. And these are pretty well set. And we're kind of setting these a little later in the year because we've been trying to build our data. We've been trying to build our plans. So this year will be a little cattywampus, but in future years, it's pretty generally January, June.
thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
I'm off my link real quick, so hang on.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Communications and comments. ETO. EESP. ECOPA. Admin. I don't think I see anybody. Persons to be heard, public comment. We'd have a couple of them tonight. So Erica, I'm going to ask for the first one, if you could post the letter for, I believe it was Judy Harper. Can you post that on the screen for us to view? And we'll give it its allotment of 3 minutes for people to read through that. Of course, as board policy, we'll read or hear the comment, but there'll be no response at this meeting today.
You see that?
Yes.
And then while people are reading this, we also had another last minute one that Candace gave me, Alice James, but I do not see her in the attendees portion to move her over to panelists. If you want to, in the Q&A section, if you want to put what name is listed in case I missed it, and we can add you to the panelist side.
Okay, Eric, thank you so much. The 3 minutes is up. Next on the list, we'll have Kim Foster. Welcome and good evening. And your 3 minutes starts now.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to talk. I know that we're not going to talk about the investigation, so I won't even go there. But I do want the board and the community to know and be aware of the different areas of improvement that we have had in our school since Mr. Rassanen has been our principal. According to the OSPI website, we've had a lot of improvements. Starting with the freshman failure rate has improved from only 49% on track to 79%. Our average math scores have jumped from 20 to 39. Our ELA scores went from 47 to 69%. We've also improved on dual credit, attendance, and discipline. Given what a stellar administrator Mr. Rassanen has been, I would expect as a community member and a parent that there would have to be some serious charges against Mr. Rassanen to justify his absence from this high school for this extended time period. Again, thank you for the time to speak. I appreciate it. And I thank you for your time. Also, I have a quick question. Mr. Nesmith mentioned the last board meeting, and I was unable to find the board meeting minutes that have happened this year. So I was wondering when those will be available, if I could get them emailed to me, please. That's all I have to say. Thank you, and I wouldn't want to be in your guys' position. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda tonight, we have good news. Mr. Nesmith. Oh, whoops, we got good news. We have Caleb Bogar. Is Caleb here? Hi, Caleb.
Good evening. So in years past, we've brought our new co-op members to you guys to discuss further. We've kind of switched that, and we're sliding it in under good news. So I would like to inform you all that Fire District 12 out of McCleary has decided to join the co-op.
Great news. Not just good news. Does anyone have any questions for Caleb? Nope.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Chris, is there any other good news you'd like to report?
Yeah, I guess we have lots of things going on in the Elma School District. We did have a success. We have a transitioning, I don't know if I would say successful, but a transitioning successful shift in our parent pickup. One of the benefits of having my own daughters in the Elma School District is I get to learn a lot from my daughters. Not verbally, like I will be honest, they absolutely love their teachers. I get to learn a lot in regards to the fact that I walked into my house about a month ago and it smelled like something died. And my wife and I spent an hour looking for what had died in our house. And we learned it was chocolate milk had exploded in my youngest daughter's backpack that had been sitting there for weeks on end. And when I called my fifth grade daughter's teacher, I said, oh my good, like her backpack's done. What can we do? She says, don't worry about it. I've got grocery bags. This happens all the time. And I was like, all the time? I'm like, you keep bags on hand for exploding, rotting chocolate milk? Like, this is oddly specific. And the answer was, yes, we do. We do have chocolate milk, extra bags for exploding milk. So tomorrow we actually begin a new breakfast distribution system where students will actually get breakfast at breakfast and they don't need to take it home after school. It was the same concern. We do not have administrators on hand. Our previous parking lot situation, I think a big concern was time. I'm going to let everybody know it wasn't time, it was man hours. And Caleb Bogar and Mark Keating just put their heads together and just did an amazing job. We need one quarter of the staff to manage the new parent drop-off pickup. And this is really important when it comes to our special education students, because now we actually have teachers on hand and administrators on hand for those IEP meetings. So we can actually do many of the things that our teachers are doing after school, the educational supports they provide, they can now provide those. They're no longer just managing the parking lot. So our new parent drop-off pickup, again, we are working on speeding up the process. So it's I would say we're an 80% success rate on there, but I do want to communicate, we need dramatically less staff to manage the new parent drop-off pickup. So now we can go back to having those meetings and not needing to reschedule and supporting our students who need those supports. So those are my two big, well, I guess I have two things. My oldest daughter has started wrestling at Elma Middle School, and I'm really proud of her because I wrestled growing up, and I think Ryan's a wrestler as well. And then she's also, if we get out of here in 15 minutes, I can make her band concert. But I will say the band program did commit that they will not have any more band concerts over board meetings. So as a parent, I can make my daughter's band concerts. That is a new success. Tonight should be the last board meeting, so I can make those.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to approval of adoption policy 3131, transfer second and final reading.
I'll
It
move.
says
for the-
final ready on them. Sorry.
I'll move for the approval to adopt policy 3131, transfers second and final ready reading.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Approval of policy 3141, non-resident students, second and final reading.
I'll make a motion for the approval of policy 3141, non-resident students, second and final reading.
There's
I'll
been a
second
motion
it.
made.
I'll
Okay. I think that was Ryan. So there's been a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion approved. Approval to adopt policy 6225, use of electronic signatures, second and final reading.
I'll make the motion for the approval to adopt policy 6225, use of electronic signatures, second and final reading.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're gonna go to back to Mr. Nesmith for enrollment.
We are holding steady, if not increasing. Share my screen. And all groups but our high school. And what we're seeing is the largest drop is going to be in 11th and 12th grade. Notice that we were up in 9th grade, we're up in 10th grade, but we're dropping in 11th and 12th grade. And the big rationale is that has been a large movement into Running Start. So that's going to be one of our areas of focus. And that's one of our areas of focus on dual credit, is to offset that Running Start gap. So, I mean, that's going to be a big deal on making sure that our Elma students can get the post-secondary opportunities while they're here with us. Any questions on our enrollment?
Nope. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Great. We will move to our budget report from Lisa. Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening. This is August final balance. I'll have your end fund balance for you. I just closed the books, waiting to hear back from the ESD that everything's moved forward, keeping my fingers crossed. But I wanted to say I'm going to move to the 5 data dashboard. So hopefully starting September, I can bring you the financial 5 data reports so we can mesh it all within our student data. And I think they'll be really awesome reports. So you'll see something different when I come in. I should have them 1st of November. I'll have September and October should be ready for you. And then I'll bring year-end final report to you probably towards the end of November. Just to have time, I have some other reports due for the state. Need a little time to put the presentation together.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Lisa? No? I just want to make a comment, Lisa. Thank you for the work that you're doing and some of the extra new stuff that you've been doing. I've been hearing really good things, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if no one has a question for Lisa, we'll go ahead and move on to Superintendent Report.
Well,
Thank you, Lisa.
I will admit they've been lacking as we're transitioning to a totally brand new superintendent report. So now that we've landed on our strategic goals and we have landed on our superintendent evaluation criterion, my plan is I'll have a brand new superintendent report shifted to beginning this Friday on the work we're doing in regards to my evaluation and our district strategic goals. So that is my report. The report will be changing. My goal now is that I want to begin shifting the superintendent report so it is more forward facing for the rest of the community to begin seeing this is the work happening, and so more public facing. So this is the work happening within the Elma School District as we're moving forward. So the last superintendent report, again, that went to the board. I mean, it's someone want to do a public records request, but it's really uninteresting. It is the things I've been doing to learn about the community of Elma as I've been transitioning. So shopping in Elma stores and making sure that we're having my own daughters enrolled, and so it has not been public facing, mainly because it's not exciting, but my daughter is doing great in soccer. We have a game in Aberdeen this week, but all right. And that's what I have.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Delaney. We're going to go ahead and hear from you for student representative report.
Hi. So homecoming week just wrapped up and it was really cool to see everyone dressed up and showing their spirit and participating. For the first time, to my knowledge, 2 girls were voted for homecoming court in the junior class, Kate Shapansky and Gracie Nunez, which it's really awesome to see that LGBTQ plus representation in our school. It's just really cool that we were able to do that. So yeah, and then also a lot of our FFA officers and FFA members, I think there's like 4 or 5 or 6-ish, are in Indianapolis right now for National FFA Convention. They just spent a couple days in Nashville and then just drove up today or yesterday up to Indianapolis, and then they're documenting everything on their Instagram. They've been posting a lot this week and they've been going live, and their Instagram is @Elma_FFA. So if you're not following them, then go follow them because they post some really cool stuff. And Grace told me, our FFA president, Grace Smith, told me that they're making a YouTube video and they're just compiling a lot of clips from everything that they do on their trip. So keep an eye out when that comes out because that'll be really cool to watch. And then also this week is the Monty Elma football game. So that's really exciting. And I hope to see a lot of people come turn out to support our football team. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much for all that information. What a great week we had for homecoming. I loved watching my kids get to be involved. One of them for the first time, well, both of them actually for the real first time. And I just want to get a shout out to the rest of our community for really raising up our kids. It's been a great week. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Delaney? Oh. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting tonight. We do not have executive session. So with that being said, we'll meet again at our next board meeting. Until then, everybody stay safe and dry. It's a little wet out there. Be careful headed to the game with the traffic and water on the road. So have a good night, everyone.
Motion to dismiss, Bernadette?
Yeah, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Sorry.
I'll second it.
It's been a motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Little details, guys.
And bye.
Sorry.
Hey, Chris, you're gonna make the concert.
Bye.
I have 6 minutes to make it to my daughter's concert.
Drive
Have
safe.
fun.
You
Drive
can grab
night.
something to eat in that amount of time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.